Leave hair tan, cold eye and collar, under the bottom crawl.
The sky over Jerusalem darkened long before the sun began to fade. In the year 30 AD, during the height of Passover, a city already swollen with tension found itself holding its breath. Roman soldiers tightened their grip on the streets, religious leaders whispered behind closed doors, and somewhere in the chaos, a man who had never led an army was about to be executed as if he had. This was not just another crucifixion. This was a calculated decision, a moment where politics, fear, and power converged. And the question that still echoes 2,000 years later is not simply why Jesus died, but why it had to happen this way. The story often begins with betrayal or faith, but beneath the surface lies something far more unsettling. What if the crucifixion of Jesus was not just a religious event, but a political necessity? To understand that, we have to step into a world where empires ruled through fear, where peace was maintained through violence, and where a single man with no weapons could threaten the stability of an entire system. Judea at the time was not free. It was a province under the iron control of Rome, governed by Pontius Pilate, a man whose primary responsibility was simple: maintain order at all costs. Rome did not tolerate disruption. Rebellion was crushed swiftly and publicly. Crucifixion itself was not merely a punishment, but a message, a spectacle designed to remind the population what happened to those who challenged authority. Yet Jesus of Nazareth did not fit the profile of a rebel. He carried no sword, commanded no troops, and spoke of a kingdom that was not of this world. And yet somehow he became a threat. This is where the story begins to fracture into deeper layers, because power does not only fear violence, it fears influence. Jesus was gathering attention, not just from the poor and the sick, but from crowds large enough to make rulers nervous. He spoke with authority, challenged existing interpretations of the law, and most dangerously, began to reshape how people viewed power itself. In a society where religious leaders held enormous influence over the population, this was not just inconvenient, it was destabilizing. The high priests and the Sanhedrin were not merely spiritual figures, they were political actors, operating under the watchful eye of Rome. Their authority depended on maintaining a delicate balance. Too much unrest and Rome would intervene, too much deviation, and they risked losing control over their own people. Jesus disrupted that balance, not through force, but through something far more dangerous: ideas. He questioned traditions, exposed hypocrisy, and spoke directly to the masses in a way that bypassed established structures. And that is when patterns begin to emerge. Why did the accusations against him shift depending on the audience? Before the religious leaders, he was accused of blasphemy. Before Pilate, he was presented as a political threat, a man claiming to be a king. This was not accidental, it was strategic, because Rome did not execute people for religious disagreements, but it did execute those who threatened imperial authority. The narrative was being shaped in real time, carefully constructed to ensure a specific outcome. And then there is Judas, often remembered simply as the betrayer, but his role raises uncomfortable questions. Why was his betrayal necessary if Jesus was already attracting so much attention? Why the secrecy, the nighttime arrest, the urgency? It suggests coordination, timing, a need to control how and when this confrontation would unfold, because public opinion mattered. Too much chaos could spark unrest, too much sympathy could create backlash. The arrest had to be precise, contained, controlled. As the pressure built, Jerusalem became a stage. Every decision carried weight. Pilate himself appears almost reluctant in the accounts. A governor known for brutality suddenly hesitates. He questions, he deflects, he even symbolically washes his hands. Why? Because executing Jesus was not a simple decision, it was a calculated risk. On one hand, releasing him could anger the religious leaders and potentially incite disorder. On the other, executing him could turn him into something far more powerful than a preacher, a martyr. And yet, the choice was made, not in isolation, but under pressure. The crowd, the leaders, the system itself converging toward a single outcome: crucifixion, public, brutal, final. But even here, something feels different. The charge placed above his head reads, "King of the Jews," a political statement, a warning. Rome was making an example, not just of a man, but of an idea. The idea that authority could be challenged without violence, that influence could rival power, and that is what made Jesus dangerous, not what he did, but what he represented. As the crucifixion unfolded, the brutality was undeniable, the physical suffering, the humiliation, the spectacle. But beneath it all was a message. This is what happens when you disrupt the order. And yet something unexpected occurred. Instead of silencing the movement, it amplified it. The very act designed to end his influence became the catalyst for its expansion. His followers did not disappear, they multiplied. They did not retreat, they spread. And suddenly the question shifts again. If the goal was to eliminate a threat, why did it have the opposite effect? This is where the story moves beyond politics into something deeper, because the crucifixion achieved multiple outcomes simultaneously. For the religious leaders, it removed an immediate challenge to their authority. For Rome, it reinforced its dominance. But for the movement that followed Jesus, it became a symbol, a turning point, a moment that transformed fear into conviction. The early followers began to preach not just his teachings, but his death and what they believed came after. This was no longer a local disturbance. It was a growing movement with a message that transcended borders. Rome, once again, found itself facing something it could not easily control. And yet the system that crucified him had already set the stage. By choosing such a public and brutal method, it ensured that the event would not be forgotten, that it would leave an imprint. And perhaps that is the most unsettling possibility of all, that the crucifixion was not just an overreaction or a misunderstanding, but a convergence of motives. Political necessity, religious preservation, and human fear all aligning in a single moment. Because history rarely moves in straight lines, it moves through decisions, through compromises, through moments where individuals choose stability over uncertainty, and in those moments, the consequences ripple far beyond what anyone could predict. Jesus' crucifixion was one of those moments, a decision made under pressure, shaped by competing interests, and executed with finality. And yet, it did not end the story, it transformed it. Today, the figure at the center of that event remains one of the most influential in human history, not because he conquered territories, but because he challenged the very nature of power. And perhaps that is the hidden motive we often overlook, that systems of control do not only eliminate threats, they sometimes create them, because the act of suppression can give rise to something far more enduring, an idea, a belief, a movement. So when we ask why Jesus was crucified, the answer is not simple. It is layered, complex, human. It involves fear, strategy, pressure, and consequence. It reveals how power operates when it feels threatened, and how individuals, even in the face of overwhelming force, can alter the course of history. Because in the end, the crucifixion was not just about ending a life, it was about preserving a system. And yet, in doing so, it may have ensured that the very message it sought to silence would echo louder than ever before. History is filled with moments like this, moments where decisions made in the name of stability lead to transformation, where the attempt to control the narrative only amplifies it, and where the true impact is not seen immediately but unfolds over generations. Jesus' crucifixion is one of those moments, a collision between power and belief, between authority and influence, and it forces us to confront a difficult truth that sometimes the most significant events in history are not driven by what is visible, but by what lies beneath, the hidden motives, the silent calculations, the decisions made in rooms we never see. And as you reflect on this story, consider this. If you were there, in that moment, surrounded by pressure, uncertainty, and fear, what decision would you have made? Because history is not just something we observe, it is something we participate in, and the forces that shaped that moment are not as distant as we might think. If this perspective challenged the way you see history, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because the past is never just the past, it is a mirror, and sometimes what it reflects is more relevant than we are ready to admit.